Yeah, sure thing.
Hey, you sold that car yet?
Yeah, sold it to Carvana.
Oh, I thought you were selling to that guy.
The guy who wanted to pay me in foreign currency, no interest, over 36 months? Yeah, no. Carvana gave me an offer in minutes, picked it up, and paid me on the spot. It was so convenient.
Just like that.
Yep.
No hassle.
None.
That is super convenient.
Sell your car to Carvana and swap hassle for convenience. Pickup fees may apply.
Wow.
What's up?
I just bought and financed a car through Carvana in minutes.
You? The person who agonized 4 weeks over whether to paint your walls eggshell or off-white bought and financed a car in minutes?
They made it easy. Transparent terms, customizable down and monthly. Didn't even have to do any paperwork.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Hey, have you checked out that spreadsheet I sent you for our dinner options?
Finance your car with Carvana and experience total control. Financing subject to credit approval.
This episode is sponsored by Zoe. Hi Clubbers, a couple of things before we jump into this episode. Friday's show has now moved over to our subscription on Apple Podcasts.
So please subscribe to the channel for your exclusive weekly wellness roundup show and to listen ad-free on every episode of Self-Care Club and 40ish.
Just hit subscribe and you will get exclusive access to all of this content. Hello everyone, a big happy new year and welcome to the first show of 2025 at Self-Care Club. And we're kicking off this brand new year and new season with an amazing guest and an amazing topic who is returning to the show after guesting on our episode on the Zoe app. I think that was in May 2023.
That long ago.
Wow,
that is I had so much fun that
A year
day.
and a half ago.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. Please welcome back to the show, Dr. Federica Amati.
Federica is the head nutritionist at Zoe, the science and nutrition company, and holds a PhD in clinical medicine research from Imperial College London. She has a master's in public health and is an Association for Nutrition registered nutritionist. Federica is the author of Recipes for a Better Menopause and the Sunday Times bestseller Everybody Should Know This. Her approach focuses on improving overall dietary quality throughout the life course using food as the best tool to transform health.
Thank you so much for having me. And
Thank
thanks
you for coming
reading
back.
that lengthy bio. Should snap that up really, shouldn't I?
Welcome back to the show. We are delighted to have you. And what a treat for all of us and all of our listeners to have you as the first port of call in January.
Well, we need it, right? Because it's New Year and everyone is full of chocolate and booze. And in
And
my
cheese.
case, cheese.
Not my
cheese.
case.
Not you, but definitely me.
I had too much cheese
Are
last
you
year.
full of booze and chocolate and cheese?
Of course she's not.
No, not booze. Booze I'm pretty strong on not being full of, to be honest. So I'll have a glass of red, maybe
Yeah.
a glass of champs.
Yeah.
So on New Year's Eve I had some champagne because that was one of my best friend's weddings.
What a great day to get
I
married.
know, and in Edinburgh.
Oh,
So
fabulous.
cool. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
So I was a bit full of champs, but generally, I think last Christmas I did overdo the cheese. I got a bit carried away.
Do you promise?
Like I really was. I was a bit like, why do I feel a bit? I think I just had way more cheese than usual. It's like my body was like, what is all this cheese?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think my normally I find that cheese is probably the one. Chocolate, I have a limit of how much chocolate I want in a day, especially because
I
I
just
really
don't.
like dark chocolate.
Yeah.
I really don't like dairy chocolate at all, milk chocolate. So there's only so much dark chocolate you can eat.
Yeah,
Agreed.
that is true.
Right?
Agreed.
It leaves a
Yeah.
film on your mouth.
Oh, no, I don't know about that.
Maybe I'm eating the wrong one.
It's more that it's like the flavor profile. I think because it's quite savory. Dark chocolate has it's kind of bitter. That's what I'm trying to say. And so the bitterness means that there's only so much you can eat, even if you love it like me. So the biggest risk, I guess, is cheese.
Well,
Not a problem for you.
it's not. I hate cheese.
What are some of the most common nutrition mistakes that people make in the winter? And how can they kind of slowly, without a shock, adjust a little this January?
Do you know, I think what I see a lot is a lot of self-punishment in the winter. So people sort of enter winter expecting for it to go bad. They're like, oh, it's winter now, it's cold, and then it's going to be Christmas, and then it's going to be New Year and Christmas parties, and then come January, come now, everyone's like, oh my God, I need to get back on it because
Yes.
I've been. And so there's
Yes.
a real sort of, I think sometimes people set themselves up for failure. They're like, well, I'm going to suck. It's like, why? It doesn't have to be that way, you know?
That is my intention for 2025, to suck.
So I think my biggest thing, I like what I talk about a lot, is Christmas is one day. And then if you celebrate around it, or you celebrate another sort of your own festives, it's usually 3 days max. Like, you know, I'm Italian. So we celebrated Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then my husband's British, so Boxing Day. So it's 3 days full. Yeah. But that's 3 days out of 365 days.
And it's basically a
okay.
roast. It's just a roast.
It is. And also
Well,
it's like
it's a lot more than that.
It's even if you have like a lot more food than you would normally, and foods that you don't normally eat, it's 3 days out of the whole year. And that is just not like your diet and your health rely on what you do consistently.
Okay.
It's all about consistency. It's not about perfection. So I don't like this narrative of, oh, well, I'm just going to like let it all rip on Christmas Day and feel sick. It's
Yes.
like, why do you want to do that?
Well, I don't know, but I do that. I don't know why I do. And I know I'm doing it, and I know I'm going to regret it.
And
I
you
know
still
all the
do it.
steps.
Yeah.
Let's still go head first.
So yeah, I think, I don't know, we have a weird relationship with food anyway.
Yes.
Because you could ask me the same question about summer. And then summer, it's like people suddenly start freaking out about summer bodies and like, I'm going to have to go on holiday and like be in a swimsuit. And then so that we're just in a bit of a cycle of punishing ourselves with our relationship with food. And I think we're starting to address that as a nation, I want to say. I don't know if it's that broad, but you do see more narratives where actually, you know, food is your friend. It's here to help you
For sure.
be healthier. It also tastes great.
Yes.
It connects us socially. So, you know, Christmas is a great example where we come together to share meals, which is lovely.
Lovely.
But I think we just need to change our mindset about it, our attitude to it, and realize that we're not supposed to be failing or failed by our diet. It's actually there to support us and to help us and to be healthy and to thrive.
Yeah.
And as soon as that switch happens, that's when you see real transformation in people's attitudes. Because instead of fearing food or instead of cutting things out or saying, well, I'll eat all this food on Christmas Day and then I'm just going to massively pull back for the new year. People think, oh, I'm going to enjoy the food I want on Christmas Day and that's going to be lovely.
Full stop.
Yeah.
And rather than this binge restrict mindset.
Yes, exactly. Or having like some external factor that's guiding the way you think about food, which is either that you have a holiday, you want to look a certain way. Someone said you should be doing a certain diet. So I think it's much more about intrinsic factors, like what do you feel? And that's what I said, you know, what do you want to eat on Christmas Day? So for me, it's like if someone says to me, oh, have some more, like have some of this, you must try it. If I don't want to, I just say, oh no, thank you, that's so kind, but I really don't want it. And it's also having the sort of confidence to say that. And and someone might get offended for like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. If they're your family or friends, they shouldn't be offended for longer than that. Like it's not a real thing to be offended if you can't force feed someone. And if that's
You're talking to two Jewish mothers.
Yeah.
it's basically our life's work.
It's like I'm
It's to
feeling
force feed
sick
people.
at what you're saying.
but you know, but if someone, you will still ask, right? So say when my mother,
I give points at the dinner table of who's eaten the most.
You do not.
When I have people over for dinner, not every day, I'm like, oh, you're the dinner winner because you've had 2 plates.
But even say that's the case. So say like my mum's a bit like this because she's Italian and she's like, I made this, I made that, have this, have that. You know, if I say to her, Mummy, that's enough, I've had enough.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, okay. Oh, well, okay, fine. And like she might look at me like this. What do you mean? But then she's
What do you mean enough?
But then it's a cultural thing to keep offering more
Yes.
food. But it doesn't mean that you have to accept it.
No.
And
Totally.
so I don't want people to stop offering. Right? Because that's like, it's cultural. It's like, have more. I've made
Here's
plenty.
my love.
Like,
Here's my love. Yeah.
It is how I'm showing you that I love you and appreciate you around my table.
And then your
Yes.
job is to be like, I really appreciate that love. Thank you so much. This is beautiful. And I've loved that dish, but I'm just full up right now. And I might have some more later. Or I would love to take some home for tomorrow. Like there's other ways, which means you don't have to make yourself feel sick right then and there, basically.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
I can't believe you do dinner points though.
Do.
Dinner points.
I won't do it tonight.
You've never given me dinner points.
Because you never have a second plate.
Oh, I don't. I'm a very good eater.
You're moderated.
As
in
my
everything.
grandmother would say, a pleasure to feed. I'm a pleasure to feed.
You are a pleasure
I know,
to feed.
I really am. let's say that there are people who there definitely will be this January who want to make some very simple nutritional changes. What are some easy, tangible nutrition hacks or little changes that can really make a significant impact on your health?
Yeah, so I love this question because I've thought about it a lot.
Okay.
And there's some things, so working one-on-one with people and then seeing how Zoe members respond to the advice we give them as well.
Yeah.
We've really seen some trends of what people can really engage with. And there's two types of people, broadly. The first type is somebody who wants to understand how they need to build each meal. So at every mealtime, what are the key factors they need to think about? And for those people, it's simply saying, make sure that half of your plate or bowl, whatever you're creating at that point, is full of vegetables. Leafy greens, mushrooms, aubergines, tomatoes, I don't care what vegetables, but just all the vegetables. And then to that, add some beans, some lentils, some chickpeas, some hummus, however you like to have legumes, add some there. Then make sure you're having some really good quality complex carbohydrate. Now, this is where a lot of people get confused about what is that, basically. So sweet potatoes are wonderful, but really we want whole grains, quinoa, buckwheat, barley. These are the foods that we don't buy them. Hardly anyone eats them.
Yeah, they're very
I don't think I've
old-fashioned, aren't
ever
they?
bought buckwheat.
Yeah, so it's actually really easy to cook. It's
would
delicious.
you boil it?
You just boil it. You boil like rice.
Like bulgur
You just-
wheat.
Yeah, like bulgur wheat. So these whole grains are, when you look at the data to assign, like what is the dietary habit that is causing the most disease across the world, right? Big question. People have done this research.
Desperate for the answer.
Yeah. And you'd think, oh, it's going to be a diet high in red meat and that features sort of down the bottom of the list. But at the top of the list is a diet low in whole grains.
Wow.
So one of the key things we have to think about when we think about, well, how can I make a healthy eating habit in the new year, right? This year, what am I going to do in 25 that's different? Change your mentality from what you need to be eating less of
Yes.
to what you need to be eating more of.
Love it.
Because at the top of this chart, and I'll send the paper because it's an awesome paper. The top of the chart is diet low in whole grains, diet low in legumes, diet low in nuts and seeds, diet low in whole fruit, diet low in omega-3 fatty acids. So all the diet low in is causing the most issues globally.
Interesting.
And then, of course, you do have diet high in trans fats, diet high in red meat and processed meats because, let's be honest, they're not good for you. But we're suffering a lot more by not eating enough of the whole plants by quite a margin. So when you look at the attribution of how much is this causing death and disease, horrible, but big. So when you're building your plate, if you're a plate builder, if you're someone who wants to just think about it meal by meal, you've got your vegetables, get some legumes in, get a whole grain in. And at first, you might struggle to get used to it. But actually, nowadays, you can even buy the parboiled packets of spelt, for example. So it's as easy as microwaving that. But honestly, you just boil them with a bit of salt. It's not hard. And they'll keep in the fridge for a good 4 or 5 days. So you can just add them to your plate as you go. And then have in the last bit of your plate, that's where you have your salmon, or maybe it's eggs, or maybe it's chicken, or maybe it's tofu. Like add some protein source that you enjoy eating, but also knowing that the beans and the whole grains and the vegetables all have protein already. So let's stop obsessing with protein. Protein has been weirdly at the top of everyone's minds for a very long time.
I feel like everyone's obsessed with protein.
Obsessed with protein. And the problem with protein is that I'm not anti-protein. Protein is essential, but most adults get twice what they need every day without supplementing. And by focusing on protein, everything else falls off. So I've worked with lots of people who are so set on reaching obnoxious targets for protein intake, usually set by non-nutrition professionals, because nutrition professionals would never tell you to eat 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. If someone here listening is outrageous. And so people are so focused on that everything else falls off. And if I were to ask you how many adults in the UK are protein deficient, what would you tell me?
25%?
I would say lower.
It's like less than 1%.
Really?
Nobody.
So why is everyone so obsessed with the bloody protein bars?
So the only time that protein becomes an issue is if you have a serious health condition. So cancer is a very good example. Cancer is such an immune active state, and our immune system requires a lot of protein. All the products of the immune system are proteins, right? So if you're in a very high inflammatory state, you're using a lot of protein. So that's one example where it's really important.
Okay.
Another example is people who are frail. So they're older adults who don't eat enough. So crucially, most of the people who do have an issue with protein are the ones who don't eat enough. They can't eat enough, whatever reason, medical reasons, age-related reasons, because they're not eating enough, because they're not feeding themselves enough food. Then it becomes like a big flag, right? But that's a small
That's literally
proportion.
it.
Wow.
So
okay.
Now, how many people are deficient in fibre in the UK?
Loads.
Go on.
50%.
I haven't got a clue.
More than 90%.
What?
Yeah. So yes. So
More
that's what
than
we should...
90? Basically everyone.
Basically everyone. So the average intake for a
bet you're
UK
not.
adult of fibre, I mean, sometimes, I'm sure I have days where I don't get enough, but, the average, but I do focus on that. I focus on getting enough fibre. So the average UK adult gets 18 grams a day, which is the recommended amount for a 4-year-old.
Whoa.
Right? So we're really not hitting the mark there. So when you're building your plate,
Oh my God.
let's focus on getting the foods that are going to help you to get enough fibre. So all the vegetables, all the legumes, the nuts and the seeds that you sprinkle on top, the whole grains, plenty of fibre. They also have plenty of protein and plenty of micronutrients and phytonutrients. So the reason why getting the majority of your protein from plants is a good idea is because you're not just getting protein. You're getting so many other beneficial things, right?
Yes.
So that's the plate builder type. The second type of person loves to just know what to change first in the day.
Yeah.
And so I call these the begin with breakfast people. And so breakfast tends to contribute about 20% of our energy intake a day. So it's quite a big chunk. So if you can make your breakfast really good, just spend some time. And this might look like making it at home and eating it before you go to work, or it might look like taking something with you to work that you can then eat, but it's really nutritious. And as a nation, we are sort of we're the grab and go breakfast people. So there's a lot of grab the croissant on the way, or just a bar or a biscuit, and that's just
sugary.
not really breakfast.
Yeah, no.
So we have got a really big opportunity to change our diet simply and very effectively by making breakfast really good. And that could look like making overnight oat pots with kefir and berries and nuts and seeds, and then just leaving them in the fridge and grabbing them on your way to work, but they're ready to go. Or it might look like there's this amazing recipe that I'm a little bit obsessed with in the Food for Life cookbook. It's the miso spinach eggs.
Miso spinach eggs. Oh,
I
my
don't
God.
know if I could do it for breakfast, but definitely for lunch.
I need that recipe.
Because I love savoury breakfast, right?
Me too.
So
Me
this
too.
is you get a nice slice of ideally like a sourdough rye,
Yeah.
and then you basically take I use frozen spinach, you can use fresh. Frozen spinach, wilt them down, scramble your eggs with miso, just a teaspoon of miso.
Miso paste.
And then
my
once the
goodness.
spinach is wilted, add the eggs and just scramble them on quite a low heat. You don't want to overheat the miso until they're cooked. And then you put that on your toast, a bit of olive oil, and then I just slice up some spring onions and some mixed seeds.
Nicole, we're having that for lunch.
I am literally salivating.
I love
here.
a bit of umami.
Something like that for breakfast is so nutritious, fibre rich, and you'll feel full and energized for a good chunk of time. So start beginning with breakfast. Then the second thing you can do, so say you get that and you start making your breakfast and you feel really good about this and you've done it in a week. What the next step is smarter snacking. Snacks, we're a nation of snackers. More than 8 out of 10 people
Do
snack.
we even need to snack?
So the need is less, I think it's less about the need and more about if you're hungry, you should eat. Right?
Sure.
So, but it's a good question because if you've had your miso spinach eggs,
And you're going to have lunch.
you're not really going to be that hungry. But often, a lot of us don't really eat enough at meal times. And this goes back to the restriction thing. People restrict their diets quite a lot.
And then
they're
they're
hungry.
hungry.
I'll just have a tiny meal. And then it's okay, now I'm starving.
Yeah.
And then you end up in the biscuit tin.
Right. Now, what was interesting, this is the snacking research that Professor Sarah Berry, who is our chief scientist, who's a legend, did this piece of research. And she sort of looked at, okay, is snacking actually bad? Let's look at the evidence. Let's do a study. And what she found in her study is that snacking per se isn't unhealthy. So snackers as a whole didn't have worse metabolic health markers than non-snackers.
So little pickers do not wear bigger knickers.
Right. But the quality of
That's
the
what
snacks,
she put in the study,
I've
isn't
never
it?
I've never heard that, but I
you've
think
never
that's
heard that
new title right
That's
there.
the title of the study, okay?
That's the title of this podcast.
That's it.
That's it, just that's sold. But the quality of the snacks mattered loads.
Yeah.
And so people who had a generally healthy dietary pattern, so they had really good healthy meals, could undo a lot of the benefits of the healthy meals with their snack quality. So which is quite a big deal, right?
Well, yeah.
But that's because we typically get about 25% of our energy from snacks. That's a quarter of our intake. And so if we can, so another trial she did.
Okay, it's a quarter of your diet, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Another trial she did, she just told people to swap all their snacks for a handful of almonds, just to see what would happen. That's pretty simplistic. And the results were quite shocking. Like the health markers for things like cardiovascular risk all decreased by as much as like 20 to 30%.
Wow.
And that's just in a 2-week. So smarter snacking
In
is
2 weeks?
yeah. So smarter snacking is a real flex. Like you can really make a difference to your diet if you just, once you've got your breakfast sorted, sort your snacks out, bring them with you. It might look like mixed nuts, whole pieces of fruit, boiled eggs. You might even, like one of the things that people love to do is get some hummus in a bottom of a jar, put some crudités on top, close that and put that in your bag. And you've just got crudités and hummus on the go whenever if you're hungry. It just requires a little bit of thinking ahead. Or if you are on about and you need to grab something, just think what's actually going to be helping me as opposed to just the simplest bar. And I urge people to stay away from protein bars. They are just crap.
They're also disgusting.
They're just full of crap.
They're just
full of
nasty.
So they don't count as a healthy snack.
No.
No.
I just want to be clear.
I've stopped
No.
buying them in my house because my son likes to eat them after the gym. I'm like, do you know what? No,
Just
we're
don't
done
eat
with
them.
those.
And the other thing is like timing. So the last thing is try not to eat too late in the day. Eating, there's not like a hard cut off, but as a general rule, if you're somebody who goes to bed between sort of 10:30, 11, it's a good idea to not eat past 9. It just helps with the circadian rhythm. Your body knows what's happening. It's bedtime. And actually eating late can really impact your metabolism the next day as well as your sleep quality that night. So it's not worth eating late.
It impacts your sleep quality.
Yes, yeah. Because you're essentially kicking your liver into action and your gut into action when it should be sleeping. So you're changing what your body's supposed to be doing.
So your body isn't resting.
And it's also not renewing all the cells and all the stuff it's supposed to do overnight because it's too busy digesting all the food that's sitting in your stomach.
Yeah, your gut needs a break to
Yeah.
be able to repair
Yeah.
and make a brand new layer of mucus for the next day. Really,
Lovely,
nice barrier.
lovely. We
It
love a
needs- it
layer of
needs that.
mucus.
Yeah. And if you don't give it a good break overnight, then it doesn't have time to do that. And so inflammatory, like gut inflammation, sort of discomfort, it is worse in those who eat late. Yeah.
Can we talk a minute about the Zoe's Daily 30,
Yeah.
the new supplement?
Yeah.
For people at home that don't know what it is, can you
Yeah.
just give a quick explanation as
Yeah.
to what it is?
So you know how I was just talking about diets low in X, like are causing a lot of ill health. So when we were designing this product, the intention was really to create something that would be useful for the majority, for like a large proportion of people. So the things that were obvious to us and that we heard our members tell us, they said, it's really hard to get to 30 grams of fiber a day, actually, especially if you're starting off and you realize that you're quite low. So fiber was a big factor, and like, how can we help people increase their fiber intake when they're just getting used to cooking some of these foods? And the other thing was plant diversity. So we know that having a diverse diet with lots of different types of plants is really good for our gut microbiome composition and for health generally. Like, it's well understood that you need a variety of plants in your diet. So we put our heads together and we're like, well, let's put whole plants. We want to maintain the food matrix of food because the way we've evolved is to actually eat this food whole. And there's a big difference when you eat a whole food and when you eat it in a powdered form. The food matrix, the structure, plays a part in how we digest and absorb nutrients, right? So we're like, let's keep it whole. And let's include a lot of these foods that we know that the population is low in. So whole grains, pulses, seeds and nuts, right? So that's how we approached it. And we put things in there, vegetables that people are lacking, And we also put in enough fiber. Everything's got fiber. It's all plants. So we made sure that each serving was 5 grams of fiber.
Mm-hmm. How many should you have a day?
Well, so it's, we start with 1 scoop a day. I sometimes have it 3 times a day, but I love it. Yeah, but I do generally have quite a high fiber diet. So with fiber, as you're increasing, it's worth taking your time because your gut needs to get used to the increase in fiber. So if you're someone who's come to this with a really meat-heavy diet, lots of refined carbohydrates and very little fiber, you won't have that many gut microbes ready to break fiber down because they've been starved. Yeah. So they're sort of like in small numbers.
Withering away. Yeah.
And as you increase your fiber, you're feeding these guys and they replicate and they become happy and it's great. But they take a bit of time to get to a place where you can digest the fiber.
How many grams of fiber should an adult have a day?
So it's 30 grams a day.
30. And one scoop is 5.
The scoop is 5. And the reason that we were sort of going for 5 is there's good evidence to support that the 5 gram increase leads to significant clinical improvement. So looking at, there are different studies. For example, one of them looks at 5 gram increase is a reduction of cardiovascular disease risk by 14%. And then if you look at inflammatory markers, there's also a decrease there. So 5 grams is like a good stepping stone of increase. It's like, okay, let's get an extra 5 grams in your day. And of course, it's much more effective and powerful to do it with diet. So this is not a replacement, which is the next key thing about this product. And you guys have tried it. Daily 30 is designed to be added to food.
Yeah.
You cannot drink it in a glass.
You cannot.
And you really also cannot just eat it from the scoop.
No. You don't want to or need to.
Very much designed to be added to food.
Yeah.
And that's another really key point of this because we want people to reconnect with food. There's enough products out there that are just drink this and then you don't have to think. We don't want that. We want people to add it to their dish. And because of the flavor profile, so savory, herbs and spices, I think it's delicious. I'm biased. I made it. But
it's totally delicious.
And it's crunchy.
Yeah, it's
so
crunchy.
It makes things good.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's so good on eggs.
It has jazzed up my breakfast.
It's so good on avocado on toast.
Yes, so good on eggs and spinach. And I put sirachra on it. I mean,
and it's so good in a salad.
Soup. Yes.
Yes.
And
haven't done it on soup
yet.
So
bean and pasta.
Oh.
And get the creamy bean and pasta situation, then you have that with a crunch. It's so good.
Salads.
Salads.
Yeah, it goes on anything.
Yeah, it really does.
Some people love it in their yogurt. If you quite like a savoury profile to your yogurt, people love that. So Jonathan, our CEO, he's obsessed with having.
I've done it on Greek yogurt. With blueberries, I've done that.
I didn't know I was allowed more than 1 scoop a day. I'm so happy.
I mean, yeah. It's food, so it's whole plants.
Yeah,
you can have more than a scoop a day. It's just I want to be mindful that if you're not used to having a lot of fiber, just take it easy. We don't want people to have 4 scoops a day and then
they
have
got tummy ache,
bloating. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just take it easy.
I actually cannot recommend this supplement enough. I think it's one of the nicest supplements I've had because it's not in a pill, and like you said, it's not in a powder. It is proper food. It is delicious, and it honestly jazzes up most meals. I really love it.
And it's nice we were able to add in, what's nice about it is there's ingredients in there like baobab, and we've got 7 different types of medicinal mushrooms in there. And you just can't normally get that easily in food. So it's nice to
have to take a lot of pills.
Buckthorn powder. Yeah. So it's got a nice diversity of polyphenols as well, which, it's good to have.
Clubbers, if you are enjoying this episode, then please could we ask that you share it with a friend?
Someone who you think would absolutely love this content, just share it. We would be so grateful. Thank you.
At GNC, nutrition isn't just a department, it's the whole store. Get better fuel for bigger gains, to sculpt that revenge body, and to have you feeling like you're ready to go. GNC spent 90 years perfecting nutrition and protein that literally tastes like cake, so you can look like cake. You got goals, we've got results. It's GNC, baby. Visit your local GNC store or shop now at GNC.com.
Weight loss. It needs to be fast and sustainable. Noom GLP-1 starts at just $149 and ships to your door in 7 days. Take it from Marcos, who's loving his journey with Noom GLP-1.
I'm getting to where I want to be. I'm in such a good place right now, and I'm very confident that I'm going to be able to continue this weight loss, this journey, and really make a true lifestyle change.
Don't believe it? Take it from Cam, who's gaining more confidence with Noom GLP-1.
I really am starting to feel better. Like, I feel a lot lighter. I feel a lot happier. I feel a lot more confident. I just feel a lot more like myself. I don't feel so bogged down every day.
$149 GLP-1s? Now that's Noom Smart. Noom, the smart way to lose weight. Get started with Noom GLP-1 at Noom.com. That's Noom.com. Real Noom users compensated to provide their story. Individual results may vary. Not all customers will medically qualify for prescription medications. Compounded medications are not reviewed by the FDA for safety, efficacy, or quality.
I wanted to ask you about the Zoe research that's been done recently on menopause.
Yes.
And there was like some really exciting findings.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a bit
Yes.
about that?
Yeah, so it's brilliant because we have the largest menopause study in the world at the moment. So we're so lucky to be able to publish on this topic now, which has been, historically massively underserved.
And a new tracker, is that right?
Menoscale, yeah.
Menoscale, and you
Yes.
can track your symptoms.
That's right.
Yeah.
So whilst we were doing this research, what we realised
Take
is...
me all day. I wouldn't have time to do anything else. I wouldn't. Be a full-time job.
Click. So we have made it quick. But,
Sure you have.
Literally. So it's funny, we started doing the research and then we realised that all the existing trackers were designed by men about 40 years ago.
Oh, what a surprise.
I know, right? We're shocking. And they included questions like, do you feel irritable? It's like, fuck off.
This question is irritable.
So whilst we were doing, we spoke to a lot of women who were like, oh God, these questionnaires. Like, honestly. So we were like, okay, well, let's see if we can make it a little bit more modern. And also let's actually ask about symptoms that women care about. So I think there's been a narrative for a very long time of like, oh, hot flushes and night sweats.
Yeah.
And of course they happen. But when we asked, we had over 70,000 women participate, they were like, yeah, hot flushes and night sweats were bothersome for some, but by far the ones that were more bothersome were like the anxiety.
Yes.
And like the mood changes and the brain health things, memory. So we were like, okay, we need to frame that because that's what women care about more, most of them. And I do know some women really suffer with debilitating night sweats, but there was a real majority that really said to us, the thing that actually impacts my quality of life are the brain health symptoms. So we did this research to understand symptom distribution, like what is actually happening with a much larger population. And then we wanted to understand, okay, what can diet do here?
Yeah.
So what part does diet play in improving the experience of perimenopause, the transition to menopause and postmenopause? Now, what was really interesting here as well is when we looked at how much women reported symptoms postmenopausally, it was way higher than I thought. So postmenopausal women reported more than 12 symptoms, like more than 60% of them did.
Well, this is what we learned when we interviewed the doctors when we did our menopause mini-series, is that everyone assumes you get to sort of 50, 51.
And then it's like, done.
And then I'm done, and all great. But actually lots and lots of things then start happening.
Oh, and lots of them continue for quite a while. So the severity was less, right? But still, so that was I think that's important because...
That was a surprise.
It was a surprise.
Yeah.
And not a good one.
No, we'll get to the good bit, I promise. Not a good one. But also, like, I think we've underserved postmenopausal women in this conversation.
Yeah.
So I think perimenopausal women are starting to get a bit of a
attention.
Yeah. But postmenopausal women, literally...
Oh no, well, you fall off a cliff.
They're
not relevant.
Goodbye, God bless, good luck.
They're not relevant anymore to society. So bye, see ya.
You can't breed, you're not in perimenopause, we're done with you.
Yeah. Bye, good luck. So that was an eye-opener to see, okay, this is really, we need to pay way more attention to that. And so the Menoscale we developed with these women, amazing, and it's just a very quick, free-to-access tool. So zoe.com/Menoscale. Anyone can do it. You can do it 5 times a day if you want to spend more time.
Listen, I need her to work sometimes because she can't be doing a Menoscale every day.
It also changes 5 times a day.
Okay.
So I might need to.
This is it. So it lets you track the changes. So the idea behind the Menoscale and making it like available is to actually be able to say, okay, say for example, you start eating a different way. You want to see, okay, here was my score before I started this. Oh, and here's my score after I've done this intervention. Has it actually worked for me objectively from a score? Because again, we asked women, so how do you normally track your symptoms when your doctor says, well, track your symptoms and I'll let you know. They're like, well, I write it on a piece of paper and then I lose
Then
that.
I forget where it is. Yeah. Then I put it in my handbag. Then I forget.
Not very helpful, is it? So, track it in a way that you can keep a tab and understand yourself, and then use that data to go to your healthcare professional and be like, I have this data. It has informed the fact that I believe I have menopausal symptoms. Please help me in the right way. So we want to give women the agency to have that in their hands, basically.
I love that.
And that's worked really well. We've had over 100,000 women use it.
Brilliant.
So clearly it was
needed.
Wanted it, yeah. And then in the research, what we did is we then said, okay, we've got the menoscale. Let's ask women to take the menoscale before they start Zoe.
Yep.
And then let's see how it changes as they do the intervention. Now, I want to stress here that Zoe is obviously a dietary intervention. It's a personalized nutrition program. But the foundation of what we're asking here is, does changing your diet to a healthier dietary pattern help? Right? So in our cohort, the women did Zoe. But I think we can pretty much say that changing your diet is going to help.
Regardless of where you are in your
even
menstrual
if it's
life.
Not with Zoe as well.
Yeah.
Like even if you do it in a way that maybe you're listening to our podcast or reading Tim's books, maybe you're doing it in other ways. I just want to, so the data I'm about to report is for Zoe, but I think we'll see the same. So the women who did Zoe, overall, we were expecting some change. Again, we were like, okay, it's like, this is a really nice surprise. Average improvement on the menoscale score was 35% across symptoms.
Wow.
So over a third improvement. And remember, the way we measure the menoscale is number of symptoms and how severely they're impacting quality of life. So it's not just the number of symptoms, it's like how are they actually affecting you? And we saw over a third reduction in that, which is so cool to see. And it was the same magnitude of change, whether you were on HRT or off it or not taking it.
Okay.
So essentially, of course, women, or maybe not of course, but women who were taking HRT tended to have a lower burden, so a lower menoscale score to start with, but they saw an improvement.
Still saw a third of improvements.
Wow.
That is amazing.
So it just really shows that diet plays its own pivotal role.
Oh, yes.
And it's not about this or that. We have a variety of tools at our disposal. For some women, those tools they might have less of a selection because they might not be able to take HRT or maybe they don't want to. But we have HRT, exercise, we have diet. These are major ways, like mental health support, your social structure. These are all major pillars that women have at their disposal to improve their health and their experience of the menopause. So that was really encouraging. And what was really cool was that the biggest improvement was on the mental symptoms. So like the anxiety, the memory loss, the brain fog, that category, 38% reduction.
Wow.
And that's exactly that. That was the one that was like, wow, this is really... And so this really speaks to...
That is...
the importance of the gut-brain axis.
Yeah.
So like what the gut microbiome is doing there, but also just the importance of treating our health as a whole.
Well, food is medicine.
Yes.
Well, but it's like we can't think that if you improve your diet, you will improve your brain health as well as your physical. Your physical health includes your brain health. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And often we separate the two. It's very.
I actually think it starts with your brain health, if there is a starting point, because your thoughts are going to be dominating everything.
Well, of course, and if
they dominate every behaviour.
If you're down and you're anxious and you're low, you're not going to want to exercise. You're not going to want to see your friends and be social. You're not going to want to go to the doctor and get help. You're not going to want to eat nutritious food. You're going to want to sit on your sofa in your bed eating cereal out the box, because it all leads... It all leads into everything else, right? It all feeds itself.
Right.
Listen,
because we're all one.
If I get to a point where I'm in bed,
I'll do an intervention. I will crawl under
Both
those
of you
covers.
need to come in.
I will snatch that box. I'll hit you over the head with it, and I'll drag you out by your feet. Okay.
Federica's going to come in with some quinoa.
Please have this. I made you a kale and quinoa
Here's
salad.
some buckwheat in a Tupperware.
I put some miso in it.
I made you a ribolita. Would you like some?
Oh, I love a ribolita.
Yeah, no, it's like, it was just so encouraging to see such big results, and also so encouraging to see that Women want to partake in research about their own health. They want to do things to understand where
Yes, they do.
And it's like if
desperately want to.
If people have the tools, then they can do something for themselves, and that's so good, because we are at a point where I think, medicine has served us so well. So thanks to medicine, we live longer. Thanks to medicine, we're not dying from tuberculosis as much. All these diseases, people forget, I think. Take a step back. 100 years ago, just over 100 years ago, kids were dying early from bacterial infections. We were all dying off from things we have vaccines for now. It's completely
you die of a cut
transformed.
finger. You get a bit of sepsis, off you go.
Done. Yeah. So medicine really has brought us...
This is the truth. You may laugh, but this is the truth.
It's true, yeah.
We are living very long and not dying from really simple stuff that you would just be finished from.
Right. And medicine has brought us to this point.
Yeah.
But now we have to get to this point, to the next phase, which is increasing our health span. Because it's all fun and games having a lifespan that's long. But if the last 20 years of your life you're living in poor health, it's not so fun.
Why be here? I totally agree. It's quality of
health
life.
Span is that medicine has a bit less of a role to play here. It's really lifestyle medicine. So it's what you eat, how you move, and your mental health. It's clear that lifestyle medicine is going to fill that health span gap.
Lifestyle medicine.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's exciting and people need to have the tools themselves to do that, because you can't go to your GP or medicine isn't going to help you.
Well, it takes it so far. It can only do so much.
Yeah, and you can't, there's no resource for your GP to check in every week and be like, how's your new training regime going? It doesn't happen, right?
Have you made plans with your friends this week?
Yeah, so we have to have the tools ourselves to know, okay, this is actually really important. This is actually going to help me reduce my risk of disease. I can prevent being in ill health, but I can prevent ill health by taking these steps, by beginning with breakfast, by smarter snacking, by not eating too late at night. All these little things we talked about. That is us taking agency of our own health and being like, right, I'm going to be informed and make these changes, knowing that the food environment we live in and the built environment we live in is stacked against us at the moment.
Yes. I remember I have taken this piece of information. You said it in May 2023, and I think about it every day. That basically we are set up to fail.
At the moment, right. And but isn't it exciting? Since then, there has been the Lord's report on food, ultra-processed food. They're pushing government to do something about it. It's coming to the front now, where it's like, listen, we live in an environment where over more than half of our food, of our energy every day comes from ultra-processed foods. Our supermarkets are lined with snacks and just rubbish food.
Every shop you go into, every petrol station, everywhere.
The high streets are filled with fast food joints that serve no nutritional purpose. It's really hard to get around on foot. So when I really think about, I love working with older people. Loved my grandparents, I think partly because I lived with them. And sometimes I walk around London and I look at the pavements and I'm like, if you're an older person, it's genuinely dangerous to leave your house and go for a walk because there's no pavements. Or all the
potholes
things
everywhere.
Well, my stepfather's just broken his shoulder tripping on an uneven paving stone.
There you go.
There you go. Exactly.
So it's like we need to start advocating, but knowing this, we can now be like, hang on a minute, that's not enough. That's not good enough, actually. And I want people to be able to walk around and walking routes to schools and making it easier for people to move in throughout the day. Taking our lunch breaks back. If we're working from home now, I'm guilty of this and I see this a lot. It's like people just don't leave their desks and they just sit all day because there's this weird war where we don't really have office culture. So there's not that one person who goes, who wants to come grab lunch? And everyone's like, me. Like that doesn't happen as much anymore. So we need to start thinking about, we need to build. So the way I think about it is we need to be our own health architects because the architecture around us isn't great at the moment. So how can we bring these things into our life at home? How can you make sure that in your household, the foods available to you and to your family are healthy? Because there's plenty of junk food out there. So this one person commented on one of my posts being like, oh yeah, it's fine for you to say, but my son will just not have his dinner and then he'll open the snack drawer and eat biscuits.
Well, you're filling the snack drawer, my friend.
My answer
You're in charge of the shop.
I was like, well, who's filling it?
Yeah.
Like who's making that available?
Yeah.
We have, and I think historically, our grandmothers, a chocolate bar would only be at home because you can afford to buy one a week, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's flipped. There's plenty of rubbish food out there. So your home has to be your sanctuary where the majority, and I'm not a Puritan, so of course, like, you have some foods that are there for fun.
Yeah.
But like the majority of the food, if you can make your home 80% healthy food, whole food, and then 20%, you know, my kids love candy kittens.
They all love candy kittens. It's the packaging.
You know, you have this.
It's like
but then
80p per sweet.
Yeah, it's the most expensive.
They do sit at the top of my, like, they're not within arm reach. But you know what I'm saying is make the environment healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I leave a huge fruit bowl. Like, it's massive and it's always full and it's always on the counter. So when they come into the kitchen, they have to pass it before anything else. And actually they eat a lot of fruit, but that's great. I'd much rather see them cut up an apple, have a satsuma, grab a banana than grab anything else in the kitchen. And I never I never stop them having a biscuit or whatever. No. But I like the fact that they have to do that first.
But because their eye line,
that's where it is.
You've got. So
and I've done that very much on purpose.
Exactly. So you've become your own health architect. Look at that. And then like make it up so that you can walk around. So how can you
I'm a health architect.
There you go.
That's my new title. Add it to CFO, okay?
I love it.
Can I ask you some like quick fire-ish questions before we go?
Yeah.
I'm having it tattooed.
That is now how I'm referring to you. Okay.
My partner, the health architect. Give us one of the biggest myths or misconceptions about nutrition that you want to debunk. What's something that like everyone thinks but is just complete bollocks?
So there's so many.
What are your favourites?
So, okay. Shall I tell you? So one that we touched on earlier that refuses to die is this obsession with protein.
Yes.
Yep. So I think we've addressed that.
Okay.
Yep. Seed oils.
Seed oils.
Oh,
okay.
God. The so I
like rapeseed oil.
Yeah, rapeseed oil, sunflower oil, canola oil.
Yeah.
Soybean oil.
Yeah.
Toxic? No. Like this one refuses to die. There is a real narrative that seed oils are toxic for your health and they drive disease.
I actually haven't heard that.
I haven't either.
But I always use extra virgin olive oil for pretty much everything because I know it's the best thing you can do.
There it is.
Yeah.
But
I use rapeseed oil on my potatoes because it makes them crispier. I don't know why.
There you go. But there's this real narrative around seed oils. And basically why this has happened is because a lot of ultra-processed and packaged foods are made with seed oils. And guess what? Ultra-processed and packaged foods do drive worse health.
But it's not the seed oil that's...
Right.
Yeah.
So what's happened is like, oh my God, it's seed oils.
Yeah.
As they've gone up, we're all dying. Like, but you know, in America, it's a thing. Where you know,
that is...
people high in power are suggesting that we fry our potatoes in tallow instead of seed oils.
This I have heard. Like beef tallow is a real
having a
thing.
moment right now.
Yeah.
Because seed oils are toxic.
And you use it as a face cream?
Yeah. Yeah, that's like a.
I'm just saying.
This is like the sort of the natural movement.
Getting back to nature.
Yeah, so that use it as a face cream, use it for everything. Basically, I feel like, you know, when you're a new mum and breast milk is the solution to everything.
Yeah,
it's like,
squirt it in their eye.
Eye,
put it in their rash.
In a bath. I'm like, how much breast milk are you guys making? Because I don't have that. So
true.
Yeah. So beef tallow,
condition your hair with it.
Yeah. Beef tallow is that.
Yeah.
For the natural movement. And listen, there is
we
no
don't
evidence.
like beef tallow?
No.
Where does one even purchase beef tallow?
I don't want to know. It'll probably be this year. It'll be
Body Shop?
at a Holland Barrett near us, probably.
That's what I'm thinking.
They've all shut down,
Aldi?
Lauren.
I don't know.
But so seed oils, and actually, so Professor Sarah Barry recorded a whole podcast episode on this for Zoe Science and Nutrition podcast because it's such a big thing.
Okay.
That we dedicated one just on the science of that.
Okay. Love it.
Another one that I'm just trying to think. That one, because whenever I see them, I'm like, oh, not this. And a carnivore diet is still rife.
Those weird men who eat like a slice of raw liver every morning.
Oh, well, that was the Liver King. Yeah, do you remember him? And then
it's
There's one
gross.
guy I seem to be following on Instagram, and all he eats, his whole diet is steak and eggs.
Oh, I know exactly who you do. I'm
Get
not going
rid
to
of
say
him.
his name.
And he's got a lot of followers.
He sounds toxic. Get rid of him.
Followers.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
He doesn't pop up that often. Get rid of him. It's all right. It's fine. I'm
Delete
not
him.
going to do it.
but that and what's really interesting is a lot of these narratives. So like the carnivore diet and the seed oils are toxic. A lot of these narratives go back to because it's not natural and also science is lying to you.
Oh yes,
and
that's a favourite.
Medicine are lying to you.
Yes.
And I'm like, first of all, we're not one body of people, like as in
Yeah.
we're not all connected in a secret network, but also like what really, like, so for me that's a huge red flag. If someone's there and they're like, they say, you see a lot of these videos, they've been lying to you, this is the truth, red flag. Okay, who has been lying to you? Why have they been lying? Like what? Where does this?
What is their motive for lying to you?
Yeah, and essentially, it's one of these things where we have to be really wary of people who are offering these like very simplistic one-shot solutions that fly in the face of all evidence base. Because, of course, there is bias in science. I'm not trying to say that it's perfect. There's been bias in the past that you see. That when certain companies like Coca-Cola sponsor studies on exercise, there's always like incredible beneficial effects on weight loss with exercise when they sponsor that. And then suddenly it's like, it's not the sugar in the Coca-Cola, it's because you're not moving enough. So there's biases that are very subtle, but that are well understood. And then there's biases that, that just exist because we're humans. So for example, I love the Mediterranean diet, and I also love helping women and young children to improve their diets for lifelong health. So when I do a piece of research about the Mediterranean diet in pregnancy, I'm biased to like see how wonderful the research is.
Sure.
But we work with ways to reduce the bias, right? But to suggest that every piece of science that's been done is wrong and that the entire medical establishment is a one unit trying to lie to the population to make them sicker, it just blows my mind. Like, I think you have to have quite a low expectation of humanity. I think when you see that, do you remember that there's people like me that do this job, and I genuinely am passionate about helping people improve their health.
Oh, it shines through you. That is very clear.
But I think we sometimes forget that these are people who, and being an academic is hard, and it's like not glamorous. And now I'm lucky I get to talk about it, but like the 10 years in academia, you're in a room by yourself working for like 2p. Not very well paid. Yeah. So we do it because we're really passionate about
Sounds
it.
Sounds like podcasting.
Basically. We're stuck in a room and we get paid about 2p. It's about the same thing.
But you're passionate, right?
We do love it.
Do something useful.
We're doing our best.
That's a huge one that I really hope people become more aware of. Is this like anti-science, post-medicine. Like, what are we doing here? Like, let's not do that.
That they can trust you. And it's a trusted source.
Yeah.
It is, but it's like we were all clapping for the NHS when we needed them, right?
Now we're slagging them off again.
That did not last.
No, it didn't.
And then if I had to pick another, I'm trying to think of one more really good.
What gets your goat?
What about nut milks? That's not something that needs debunking. That's okay.
I think that
because that's become a whole big.
I think squirrel milk's going to be big in 25.
Milk? What's that?
No, I've made that up.
Okay, it's a new one.
Squirrels make milk.
I have
they must do to feed the babies.
I've been sent some pea milk.
Oh no!
Which actually is better than I thought.
Is it green?
And more sustainable. No, but it's pea protein.
Oh, it's very on brand for Wicked though.
Very on brand, yeah.
Oh, they totally should have made the most of that. Put some tears in it. Put the tears of Cynthia Erivo in it. Would have been perfect.
Oh, but I think the oat milk, so plant-based milk did get a bad rap. And I think, listen, unless you're chugging the stuff, which you shouldn't be.
But also, can't you just drink milk?
Yeah.
Oh, so
from a cow?
I'll give you an example though. I don't like drinking milk from a cow because I don't like the dairy, the way that milk is made. So like impregnating the cows on.
No, the dairy industry is pretty disgusting.
It's a bit rude.
Taking morals aside.
I'm very aware that the coffee I've just made you.
Yeah. So normally, I mean, I'm not allergic, so don't worry.
Okay.
But when I buy it, I personally I drink soy milk because I find that for my belief systems that like I just prefer it ethically. And then for health wise, there really isn't that big a difference. So between cow's milk, specifically cow's milk and soy milk are very, very similar in terms of nutrition composition. Oat's fairly similar. Almond is like it's terrible for the environment and doesn't have a lot in that. Yeah.
It's like water with a handful of almonds.
I would consider oat and soy to be valid alternatives.
Okay.
Maybe the pea milk will become one because it's quite good.
Milk.
But to be honest, like don't worry about it. People are really worried about, oh my gosh, should I not have oat milk because it's got sugar and it's got emulsifiers. And
you're having like that much in a coffee.
But I also find it really interesting that they worry about that, but yet they'll eat like loads of sugar in their diet.
Or they'll have the protein bars.
Yeah.
Or like the
or they'll have loads of alcohol every night. Like it's funny, isn't it? The things that people like tune into.
But it's because it's noisy. People are like, don't, there's all these videos like, don't drink oat milk, it's toxic. It's like, oh God. And often the rapeseed oil used in oat milk.
It's in the bars, isn't it?
It's a perfect storm.
It's the seed oils are toxic, and so that's killing you now in the oat milk.
All right. If you can give one piece of nutrition advice to the general public, what would it be?
Oh, God.
Eat more fibre.
Okay, love that.
Focus on fibre.
Love that. If there are 3 foods that you could encourage people to incorporate into their diet this year, what would they be?
Whole grains.
Yup.
Legumes.
Yup.
And nuts and seeds.
Love it.
Yeah,
okay.
Those 3.
Okay.
This is a life-changing conversation.
Oh,
it is.
I hope it's useful. Like, hopefully it's like little things people can do, right?
And on the menopause tracker, is that part of the Zoe app, or is its own separate app?
It's its own separate landing page. Anyone can access. You don't need a membership. And it's just zoe.com/menoscale.
We'll put it in our show notes for anyone who wants to do it. Yeah,
you can just do it. It's my new job. It's its own standalone scientific product that we have put out for everyone.
Tell us about your book quickly. Your new book.
Everybody should know this, or Recipes for a Better Menopause.
Both.
So Recipes for a Better Menopause is this book which I wrote, which has got the science on menopause that we have so far, and it's just a really succinct wrap up of like, here are the things that we have evidence base for, here's what's going to help, and here's what I encourage people to try. And then Jane Baxter, who's this wonderful chef, she was at River Cafe, and she's an amazing woman. Our publisher was like, do you want to work together on a book? And I was like, of course I do.
Yeah.
She's a legend.
Yeah.
She's a postmenopausal woman. She's been through it, and she also cooks beautifully. So we work together on the recipes. So they're all based on the science that I talk about in the front of the book, and they're really easy to make and delicious.
Yeah.
And then Everybody Should Know This is a book that I wrote, really talking about life course nutrition, which is a huge passion of mine. It's what I teach to my medical students, and it's this idea that when we help people with their diet and health, we have to consider where they're at in their life stage, because we change throughout time. This is something people are often not very kind to themselves about. So we expect to eat the same diet in our 20s.
And look the same.
And then look the same.
Yeah.
And then eat the same diet in our 40s and feel the same and look the same. And then we get annoyed with our bodies when it's like, but this is what I've always eaten. It's like, well,
that's why.
The fact that you're alive means you've evolved. So we should be grateful that our needs change.
Yes.
And essentially the book goes through the major milestones of the life course where nutrition plays an especially strong role. So it starts from conception, the first 1,000 days, which is a fascinating area of research and so much opportunity there in the first 2 years of life. And then teens, like late childhood and teens, which are very massively
They're hungry
underserved.
people.
But also we don't help them out enough. Teenagers have some of the highest consumption of ultra-processed food, and their diet is often overlooked, but they have critical brain changes, hormonal fluctuations. It's a wild time. I call it the roller coaster years in the book.
It really is.
I've only got boys. It's not roller coaster, but they're very hungry.
Yes.
Very hungry
Very
chaps.
hungry. They're growing.
They are
girls, and
growing.
it's definitely a roller coaster.
They can eat a lot. They
Yes.
can really
and what
put a
they
lot
eat is
away.
important, right?
Yeah.
And then it goes through
Very.
literally adulthood, fertility, midlife, alcohol, lifestyle medicine. So I go through it right through to Sniper's Alley, which is when
Oh, yeah.
yes,
I'm
you start
obsessed
to
with
see-
Sniper's
Oh,
Alley.
yeah.
What is
Yeah.
Sniper's Alley?
It's the danger decade.
Gender decade,
We're-
from 60.
We're not there
onwards.
yet. It's okay. I'll tell you when we're there.
It's basically when you start to see this increase in death rates.
Yeah.
And it's mostly from diet-related chronic diseases because,
Yeah.
and it's really what happens if you have consistently poor lifestyle habits, then this is where you start to see it. And it's where you see these death rates go up and people die of cancer suddenly or a heart attack suddenly. And it seems sudden because they're still relatively young and also don't have signs of frailty. But obviously internally it's played out. So avoiding that, how to avoid that, and then right into older age, how can we help ourselves to thrive? Because the majority of us, by the time we get to sort of 65 plus, it's going to be the majority of the population at that age because we have a demographic that's
Aging
changing.
population.
So I think we need to, a lot of the conversations are around like, here's how to, have your best VO2 max at the age of 48. I'm like, that's cool. But actually what I want to know is how can we help people be as healthy and have good quality of life in their 70s and 80s now? Because it's a bit selfish. If I just ran around being like, oh, and this is what I do like in my late 30s to be healthy, it's like, good for you. But there's a huge chunk of population who are in their 70s and 80s right now who could massively improve their health with diet.
Yeah.
And so my mom is my number one patient, and she's in her 70s now. And so many of the changes she's made has been in the past sort of 5 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And she's transformed her health. And she's she's weight training, and she's traveling the world, and her diet is brilliant, right? And we've reduced her blood pressure, all these things. It's important to help people at every stage of life, not just at the stage of life you're at.
Yeah, I love that.
And we need to look after ourselves, because we'll be an aging population without enough young people paying taxes
look after
for our
us.
pensions. So
Yeah,
we
that's
better
so
crack
true.
on, right? We need to look after ourselves.
Oh, this has been a dreamy start to 2025.
It really has.
Yes.
I'm so delighted that you have come back to the Self Care Club. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I love coming here. I love you guys.
You
You're
can come
brilliant.
anytime. It's an open invite.
You literally can.
Just regular guest.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
we're down for that. Yeah.
Federica, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's Libsyn, ads.com today,